Greetings, ladies, gentlemen, and our non-binary babies, because there are some of them out there. Welcome to Live from the CRJ. I almost forgot our own title of the podcast. We've been doing this for a year now. The official podcast of the Dillard University Center for Racial Justice. I am the project assistant, Lawrence Weber, and we always keep an empty seat for her, Miss Tia Suggs, who is out on assignment. She's out there, she's doing her thing, and she's gonna come back eventually. So we always keep an empty seat for her. But we actually have a very special guest with us on this episode of the podcast. Sir, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself to us.
My name is Alfred McQuarter.
Okay. And if you could, can you give us a little bit of your story?
Okay. I just got out of prison after doing 21 years on a 25-year sentence. I've been out 5 years, and I'm still sort of acclimating to being out, but at the same time, I've done pretty good.
Okay. Let me ask this question. Do you feel comfortable basically kind of sharing the details of your case with us?
Yes, I do. People need to understand and hear actual details about what goes on with people that get convicted of crimes and come home, and what caused that to happen. So yeah, no problem.
Okay, let's I cede the floor to you.
Okay, I was convicted of second-degree kidnapping and attempt manslaughter. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, unlike other people that say, "Oh, I was innocent," I was actually a participant in an assault, and that was as far as it went. But your judicial system, as it's set up, you look at the word justice, it's just us, they really embellished a whole lot of it. And I just got finished speaking to some criminal justice students a little while ago, and I explained a whole lot to them, and I was actually impressed. Nobody went to sleep. Nobody looked at their watch or on their phones and stuff like that. So I had their attention, and that was good. That was very rewarding. But I did, like I said, 21 years. I got out. I've been out 5 years now. And my case, I was convicted of that. I went to trial just under the delusion that I would get a fair trial, which didn't happen. So people need to know about that, because like I told the students earlier, you watch TV, you look at shows, you look at movies, and you figure out, well, this is how the courtroom scene goes, but it's not.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things a lot of our criminal justice students have to essentially unlearn. Things don't work out in the way that they do on Law and Order. Not in the least bit. It's supposed to be compressed. Usually these things go on for long periods of time, days, weeks, months, even years when it comes to trials. Because you are one of many people who are formerly incarcerated who we've had on the show, and it's been 5 years, so that was 2017. I'm trying to figure out. I am not a mathematician. I'm an artist.
I got out in 2019.
Yeah, so that would have been 1998.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Exactly.
So, like I said, many of the people who are formerly incarcerated, many of them say that, unfortunately, for them, they unfortunately got caught up when they were very impressionable. Now, I know 1998, I was probably 10, 11 years old. I'm not saying that to shout out my age, because all the students on campus think I'm old anyway. Is right. What it is. But a lot of people speak on their situation where they're very impressionable, unfortunately, and they just unfortunately got wrapped up in something that fell out of their control. Do you feel as though that was the same situation that you dealt with?
No, I take full responsibility for everything that happens to me. Mm-hmm. Full responsibility. I was in the streets. I was participating in a game. And it's just like anything else in life. You have different roads that you can travel. Mm-hmm. And each one of those roads has obstacles, circumstances, and situations. And I chose my road, and I actually went down it. Now, as far as me admitting guilt to what I was convicted of, no. But I wasn't innocent.
Okay. Now, let me ask this question, just going through the process. Again, we've had a number of formerly incarcerated people on our show, and a lot of them said they lacked the true knowledge of what was going on in that courtroom, even though they were sitting in that courtroom. So do you feel like you were properly informed by your counsel, by the judge, by prosecution? Do you feel that you were properly informed at all?
No, not at all. A lot of times you got cats that's in the cells, OVP and stuff, and they'll try to tell you different stuff, but it's never the truth per se. Mm-hmm. All right, I had a crime against a woman. I had a woman judge. I had a woman prosecutor. And I had 10 women on the jury. How could I get a fair trial?
Do you feel like that uneven balance was as a result, as it was, I wouldn't say intentional, but that uneven balance, do you feel like that was a result of that caused the result that you ended up getting?
Yes, because I was ignorant to the fact. I even asked my lawyer, I said, how am I going to get a fair trial and everything stacked on the other end? Mm-hmm. And he goes, Alfred, it's legal. And I'm like, it's legal. Okay.
I mean, of course, jury selection is also a thing. Like I said, that and like I said, while my wheelhouse is not law, I do know that jury selection is how do I say this? Has some level of disparities within it. You can't explicitly, how do I say that? You can't explicitly negate certain groups of people. However, you can negate them for other things. And that's something that a lot of people have noticed and are working against, especially in the justice system. Now I would like to, and I honestly don't want to dwell on the incarceration part too much, because that is one part of your life in the span of, I'm gonna quickly say 40 years. I'm toning it down.
Speaking of my age, I'm 65. Yeah.
There's something that we usually say, colloquially, and I'm thinking that right now, the term "black don't crack."
Thank you.
Which is hilarious, because it's coming from me too, because I just turned 40.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right.
So, like I said, I don't look like what I've been through. Mm-hmm. There we go. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your period of incarceration. Many people, I know many people state that is supposed to be a time of rehabilitation. Unfortunately, with our criminal justice system, that's not necessarily the case. So can you give us a little bit of an idea of what goes on in there? Because I think now, within the last 5 or 6 years, I don't know how they're doing it, but people have gotten sort of an inside look of what goes on in correctional facilities. For our Gen Z kids, they have what's called prison talk. And that's all obviously on TikTok. And there are people who have phones. Again, don't know how that's a thing. But they have phones in correctional facilities, and they kind of show I would say a slice of life in there. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience, though?
Okay, first of all, when you say rehabilitation, you have to actually look at it as, were you ever rehabilitated in the first place? So when you go to prison and they say, oh, we're going to rehabilitate you, how you going to do that? And I was never rehabilitated. And then when you get in prison, it's a choice. You can either have the time serve you, or you can serve the time. I chose the latter. I had the time serve me. I went in there, got all type of educational programs. I became a peer facilitator, an instructor, educator, stuff like that. I studied all the time, and I actually obtained knowledge of self. I found out who I am, and I used that to actually advance myself regardless of all the chaos that's going around. And it's possible. Now, on the other side of the deal, it's chaotic in prison. I mean, you got cats that's coming in there with the mentality that I don't care. You got cats that got 50 years, life sentences, 80 years, 60 years. They don't care. They know they're not getting out. They know they're probably going to die in there. So their behavior and their attitude is beyond what society can actually imagine out here. Now, in there, stabbings, rapes, mutilations, all kind of things happen right next to you. Now, it's up to you to either participate or keep it moving. A lot of cats, especially young dudes who come to prison, and it never fails that you could be anybody you want to be in prison. Oh, I had a Lamborghini, I had a mansion, I was balling, I was doing this. Eventually, somebody's going to come that actually knew you. And it's going to expose all that. A lot of young cats, the crimes they committed, a lot of times people come in there that were relatives to their victims or victims themselves. Now you got to deal with that. You don't have a gun. You don't have no weapons. So now you got to deal with that. I taught youthful offenders for about 12 years. And it amazed me how these young, and youthful offenders, I mean 15 to 17. And it amazed me these cats actually felt that a gun was a part of their attire, like your pants. You don't leave home without it. But when you look at it, we don't make the guns. We don't make the ammunition. You got to go to somebody else to get it. And it's no problem to them. It's like having a car. They go and get a gun. And a lot of times they use that gun without the foresight of what's going to come behind that. It's something like an emotional response. Back when I was coming up, you had a problem with somebody, you fought, you lost, or you won, and you dapped it off. And that was it. It evolved now into, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to go kill your mama. I'm going to go kill your sister. Or I'm going to go get somebody that's close to you. And that's crazy. But that's the real mentality of it right now. I remember I asked one of them about shooting in a crowd. They call it popping off. And they'll turn their head and just shoot. They ain't even looking at you. They're not looking at where they're shooting. They call it popping off. Just shoot. Somebody get hit, okay. And that type of mentality is prevalent with the young cats now. They just, and I have to admit, I am a part of the older cats that dropped the torch. We did not lead. If anything, we helped to perpetuate the problem. And it's strange because now I'm old and I get to say, well, I should have did this and I should have did that. But at the same time, you got cats under me that's not doing it neither. Even though you tell them about it. They like, man, I'm not messing with that. That little boy out his mind. All right, help him. And a lot of cats that I talk to, young dudes, the main thing they used to say was they didn't have a role model. They didn't have a person that was going to actually sit them down, show them the game, show them the circumstances, and then take them somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And that was one of my problems with the youth offender, because you tell these dudes, well, you can go to college, you can get an education, you can get a career. You get them to do their GED, you get them to clean up and all this stuff here, and then you send them home right back to the situation they left. You don't send them somewhere else. Mm-hmm. They go right back to the hood. And I asked, why y'all don't send them to Wisconsin somewhere, Colorado, a new start, fresh start. Oh, we don't have the funds for that. Once they leave out the gate, that's not our problem. All right, so what's the program for? You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that used to amaze me. And they actually have a photo album, which is an obituary for the youth that went on. And it's thick. When I left, it was thick. A lot of them, right back to the hood, get killed. Right back to the hood, kill somebody.
Now, I got this question because, unfortunately, this is not the first time that I've heard this. I heard this when I was in my 30s, like a couple of weeks ago. My birthday was in August, so I heard this all through my 30s. The youth is wild. The youth is wild. I heard it in my 20s when I was a youth. I heard it when I was a teenager, and I heard it back in the 90s when I was a little kid. So I feel like I'm going to put a very heavy question on you as to say, what do you think the true solution is? Because this has been going on it happened in the 80s, it happened in the 90s, it happened in the 2000s, it happened in the 2010s. It's 2024 and it's still going on. The only difference is now they have social media where they will record and put the stupid stuff because I can't say what I actually want to say. Dr. Esmail will kill me. The stupid stuff that they do online now. I think that's the only true difference. And I understand that is the culture of today. Millennials had one thing, Gen Z has something completely different. And the funny thing about it is, and I even said, I think that's a saying amongst all of our, all of the people that I know and grew up with. I was like, I thank God that I did not have social media in 2002 when I was in high school, because all of my crazy would be on social media and on the internet for everyone to see. And people, that's the consistent thing that they say, the internet is forever. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, unfortunately, don't realize that. And unfortunately, a lot of things get pushed out. And the way our culture is now, once somebody sees you doing that crazy thing, that inappropriate thing, that bad or illegal thing, that follows you forever. Mm-hmm. So they can very easily type up your name, it'll pop up with a video. So going back to my question, because that was a little bit of a rant of mine. Going back to my question, what do you think is needed to sort of change this mentality? Because it's been going on for such a long time. Mm-hmm. I mean, even in the 1970s, you still had the exact same issues. So I don't know where we go from here. And I feel like that's a conversation that so many people have been having over the course of goodness knows how long. Mm-hmm. So in your opinion, where essentially do we go from here?
I believe, in my opinion, You have to take them out of the element. You got to bring them somewhere different. Expose them to different type of culture. Expose them to different type of activities. Let them see that everything ain't the streets. Let them see everything is not gang related. I mean, you got too many Fortune 500 companies, big corporations, a lot of black entrepreneurs that's doing good that could actually take kids and bring them somewhere. Let them see. Bring them to Hawaii. Bring them to Aruba. Let them see there's other things besides Mazant and Galvez. Mm-hmm. Let them see there's other people that look like you that's doing other things, and you can do it. And give them the opportunity to do it. Just don't tell them, like, yeah, you could do this. You could be anything you want to be. And I'm like, all right, how? How? They don't have no money. The education is lacking. So you got to show them. You got to help them. You got to actually say, all right, come on. I'm going to show you this. I'm going to see to it that you actually participate in this. Now, of course, you're going to have the ones that's not going to care. They don't want to do it. All right, fine. Everything boils down to a decision, a choice.
And the funny thing that you say is like, okay, take them somewhere. The Center for Racial Justice in January of this year ended up taking what I think about 17 of our Dillard students to Italy.
See?
So, and that was my first time going to Italy too. And I was mind blown.
There you go.
So for a lot of those students, a lot of them, that was their first time on a plane.
See?
That was their first time getting a passport. They did not see, and that was a long trip. We went from Rome. I'm sorry. We went from Rome to Milan in the course of 10 days. I was absolutely exhausted coming back, but I am so glad not only to have been able to accompany them on that trip, because for me, I mean, I've lived in New Orleans for most of my life. I also live in Los Angeles as well. But for me, that was my first time in Italy, period.
There you go.
And that's like one or two times that I'd even been out of the country. So that I'm glad that essentially not only expanded their minds, but expanded my own mind as well. Because like I said, I've never been to Italy before, and going from, okay, I've only been to 2 countries in my entire life, to being down the street from the Roman Colosseum.
There you go.
is like mind blowing. I want to talk a little bit about mental health within the last like 10 years, I'll say. And I blame my fellow millennials when it comes to that. There has been more of a focus on mental health, notably amongst Black millennials. We talk a little bit more about it. We talk a little bit openly about it. That stigma that maybe previous generations had is not, it's still there. Let's be real here. It's still there, but it's not as bad as it used to be. Was within incarceration and even coming out, was there any sort of services if focusing on the mental health for the incarcerated and the formerly incarcerated? I think I opened up a rabbit hole.
I've actually been around cats that should have been in mental institutes that were in prison with you. A lot of times, and it's not people falling through the cracks, it's intentionally done. You have a facility around DCI called Jackson's Institution. Mm-hmm. All kind of people go there with mental issues. And then they wind up coming to prison. And they leave it. If you got a mental issue in prison, they're going to give you a bunch of pills. If it's severe enough, you're going to walk around like a zombie. And they're going to make you go to pill call and take them pills every day. You can't miss. If you miss one, they're going to lock you up. And a lot of cats, you would see them and go, why is he in? He's supposed to be in a mental institute, man. That dude crazy. But they're right there, picking up butts off the ground, eating dirt, all kind of stuff. throwing food around, starving. You see all kind of things in prison from people that common sense would tell you they're not supposed to be in it. They're supposed to be getting some type of treatment, but it's not. Matter of fact, when I first got out, I saw this guy on Reed and the service road at Cajun Seafood. He was incarcerated with me. This dude used to shine shoes all day, every day. That was his hustle. Shine shoes, shine shoes. This man was sitting outside Cajun Seafood, dirty, begging for money. And I gave him $20 the first time I see him. I said, bro, why you out here like that? Oh, I can't find him. And eventually I started seeing him every week. He stayed right there. And he's getting dirtier and dirtier and dirtier. And I had to actually tell him one time, you was doing better when you was in DCI. You need to go back to jail, man. And he's like, oh, no, I ain't never going back to jail. I said, so you prefer this? Because look at you. You begging for food, whatever type of drugs you're on or alcohol. Look at you, man. You filthy. And he said he don't want to go back to jail. But in my opinion, he was doing great.
And I think, unfortunately, that is because I've lived in New Orleans for, again, the large majority of my life. And unfortunately, we do know of people who are, I will say, eccentric. The gentleman who quotes scripture with the rainbow hat on Canal Street. See, the gentleman who plays football on in front of the library downtown. Everybody sort of knows those people, and unfortunately, I don't know if they are getting help, but I'm not sure if most Southern people, many Southern people are like, we don't get rid of our quote unquote crazy people. I don't like using that term. It's like we kind of keep them, but within that there is unfortunately not that doesn't necessarily come with help, and most times psychotropic drugs that may assist, but that may not be the issue. You may have to sit down and talk with somebody. So let's move a little bit to your you getting out in 2000. You got out in 2019, and what a place to get out right before a global pandemic. Fun place to get out without. So can you tell me a little bit about kind of reacclimating to the world?
A lot of stuff I was not familiar with when I got out, especially cell phones, crowds, stores, stuff like that. Because in prison, you wear uniforms, wear the same type of clothes all the time, unless you go to visit. Then they allow you a couple of different pair of pants and shoes and stuff like that. But as far as when I first got out, my sister and them took me to J.C. Penney. And I'm looking around and stuff like that. I'm not telling them anything, but I'm really overwhelmed because I haven't been shopping. I don't even know what to pick. I'm just looking at stuff.
Yeah.
And she's like, get this and get that. And I got stuff I bought I don't even wear. Just that. I've never had a new car in my life. I got a new car now. So going through that process, buying a car, when I first got out, I went to get my license, driver's license, and they told me I didn't have one. And I'm like, what do you mean I had one? I had one before I went to prison. It goes, you're not in the system no more. So I had to pay $450, I think, to driving school.
Yep.
And then get my driver's license and stuff like that.
For people who are not in the Louisiana area, it is a requirement here in the state of Louisiana to have to go to a driving school before you get your license. That is not as far as I know, that's not a requirement in any other state in the union, but here it definitely is. And I mean, of course, there is reason with that. It's because people drive horrible here. So like I said, that is a requirement. I had to go through it. My younger brother had to go through it. I feel like everybody who didn't have a driver's license prior to 2000 had to go through it. It is an extra expense, and that extra expense essentially causes more problems than it should. But that is the requirement here. I will not get on my soapbox. This is about you. So, like I said, getting acclimated, have you been able to speak with anybody on the mental health side during your time of acclimation? Because it's been 5 years. Mm-hmm. So do you feel like you need to speak with somebody? Have you spoken with somebody? How's that process going along?
Well, I've never had to go to therapy or nothing like that. I told the students earlier, if you've done 10 years or more, you got problems. You got issues somewhere because you've been told what to do, how to do it, and when to do it for all those years. So my actual problems with me, I have control issues and authority syndrome. And that's one of the things that I deal with on a daily basis because I try to stay away from those type of situations so I don't have to deal with it. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I did a lot of mental exercises while I was in prison. I actually discovered different techniques that I could use, affirmations, manifestations, self-affirmance, stuff like that to myself. So I really don't feel like I have any type of mental issues as far as that needs treatment since I've been out. But that's not for everybody. I know cats, I've seen them since I've been out that I knew in there, and they caught up. And one of the reasons is they didn't do enough when they was in prison. When you go to prison and all you want to do is play sports, watch TV, gamble, read the paper, stuff like that, what you expect to do when you get out? You didn't learn nothing. You didn't learn a trade. You didn't get your GED. You didn't do nothing. So when you get out, you're going to do the same thing you're familiar with. Mm-hmm. That's how it worked. Now, on the other hand, I know cats that went to welding school doing fine, went to carpentry school doing fine. They actually used the stuff that they learned when they got out. But that's not the case for everybody. I know people that actually, they're comfortable in prison. They get fed 3 times a day. They got a bed. They got clothes. They good. And that being out is not a problem to them. Now, that sounds strange, but if you look at the big picture, they being taken care of. That's it.
And like I said, I do have a question because a lot of times there are more and more programs that come up, but sadly for incarcerated individuals that sadly don't get enough funding. Like I said, my background is actually theater. So I know there are people who go to Rikers Island in New York and teach Shakespeare to incarcerated individuals. And that just kind of blew my mind because I'm like, for me, just as somebody who grew up in New Orleans in the 90s, there are many people who I work with who I have worked with for years and years who basically say that theater saved their lives, that kept them focused, that kept them out of trouble. Mm-hmm. And this is New Orleans. There's a lot of trouble to go around. Mm-hmm. So it kept them out of trouble. It kept them sort of focused. It gave them somewhat of a purpose, and I would like to see, I would like to see more and more of that happen because, if you're completely aimless and you're in there for 10, 15, 20 years and you have literally no focus, you have no passion, you have no nothing. I can't wrap my head around that personally. And like I said, there's got to be some sort, and that unfortunately will breed mental health issues. There's got to be some sort of reason, some sort of purpose you get up in the morning. You know what I mean? So I can understand the notion of that. So I do have a question. And it's our magic wand question. It's actually a favorite of mine. Mm-hmm. It throws people off, but since we were talking about programs, if you had a magic wand, you could wave it, and whatever will be able to happen. There's no limit to this. What programs would you have? What programs would you have for incarcerated individuals to give them focus? Like I said, no monetary limit, none of that. And that's why people throw it for a loop, because I'm like, you haven't given me a limit on this.
Well, before I left, you had quite a few programs going in there, which I taught and actually instructed. And one of them was pre-release. And everybody was required to attend that was getting out within a year. And it was decent, but it could have been a whole lot better. Mm-hmm. The funding was an issue. Participation was mandatory. See, that's another thing about prison. You said that earlier about why do you get up in the morning? Because you have to get up in the morning. There's no such thing as you're going to stay in your bed all day. There's no such thing as you're not going to go to work call. Everybody got a job. Everybody. The alternative for that was to get locked up and put in a cell block. Now, you had a lot of cats that preferred that. We call them block burners. They'll go to cell block and stay there for months.
And just so I'm clear, that would be solitary confinement.
Yeah, basically. It's levels to it. There's levels to it.
Oh, okay.
You locked down 24 hours a day. You might, and then you move up to you get a yard call maybe one time a day. You got to stay in your cell. You got 5 minutes to shower and get back to your cell. Stuff like it's punishment. And you had cats that preferred that than be on the compound.
And just so we're clear, it has been a proven fact that things like solitary confinement actually breed more mental health illness, mental health issues in the long run, because we're human beings. We're social animals. We have to be around people. Just being stuck in four walls. And from what I'm understanding, those four walls are probably smaller than the current room that we are in.
Definitely. There's a thing in Angola, and like I said, I was down 21 years, and this is the only place I ever heard this far. It's the only place that I know this happened. And I'm not going to say the word. I'm going to say poo. Poo slingers. And that's when you in the cell and I'm in the cell across from you. And we sling poo on each other. Anybody comes down that hall, they get hit with poo. And that's a thing. That's acceptable behavior in that part of the cell block. There's sling poo everywhere. Just throw it. And they got cats that got to come clean it up. But that's part of the deal. They'll throw it on them. And you had cats in Angola that go to other prisons after they get shot and they be like, yeah, I was a poo slinger. And you go, I'm not saying the word is supposed to be.
And I truly appreciate you helping me in that situation. It makes my life as editing this a whole lot easier.
But yeah, you got all kind of different things going on. Now, if that's not a mental issue, I don't know what is.
Oh, absolutely.
But these dudes participate in it for like years. And then when they get out and get put on the compound, it's like lost because you spend all this time in the cell block. And a lot of them come out and come on the compound and it don't last a week. And they'll do something to go back on purpose. Not because they have to, but they want to get back to the cell block. And it's like mental training. The same way it is with people on the compound. A lot of things, they got what's called a store. It's the commissary.
Uh-huh.
All right. This thing is set up to where, in order for you to have some type of semblance of normalcy, you get to buy snacks out the store. Potato chips, honey buns, cold drinks, stuff like that. Now, if your people not sending you no money, you can't participate in that. So now you got to hustle. You got to pull off stuff just to, get a bag of chips or a pack of cookies or something like that. So I used to actually look at, you're not the only person in prison now. Your people too, because now they got to send you money every month. And just knowing just a little research I've done, that becomes an issue over a period of time, because not only are they sending you things for putting, I think the term is money on your books. Exactly.
Yeah. So not only are they sending that, but they're also being charged for every time they contact you. They're being charged for every time they come up there. They're being charged over and over and over and over again. Money. So it's to a point where you're not just incarcerated. Your family is in a certain situation as well.
They're paying for it. They're paying for it. And you already got taxpayers paying for the prisons. You know what I'm saying? But the families, actually, if they can't afford it, you should see how these cats cut up. I mean, they'll curse them out on the phone. They'll write nasty letters and all kind of stuff because they're not sending them no money so they could go to the store.
Now, I know we've been on for a minute, but let's talk a little bit about recidivism, because at that point, and from what you have told me from your own personal experience, there are people who are experiencing that while still incarcerated. So if you have other people, because like I said, this is worldwide. Anybody who wants to listen to it, listen to it. When we were in Italy, I was able to listen to a couple of our podcasts. So what can you tell people who are just getting out, who are formerly incarcerated, who possibly are trying to fight that recidivism? What do you want to give to those who are getting out, who are trying to get acclimated to the outside world? What would you give to them? You
got to believe in yourself. You got to have confidence in yourself, not help, in yourself. When you get out, you have to make the moves to find programs that can help you, participate in them programs, and utilize those programs. They got programs out there that actually help people that get out of prison to acclimate back into society, to get a job, and all the normalcies but you have to participate. Nobody is expected to hold your hand. And I know that's difficult for people, some people, because, like I said, they give you 3 meals a day. They give you clothes. They provide you shower stuff. It's a lot of stuff prison takes care of people. And some cats get out and expect their family to take care of them. And that's not how it works. You have to believe and do for yourself. Not hustle, not illegal stuff. Legal stuff. If you ain't got a problem with going back. Now, that's a whole nother issue. They got cats that get out that don't have a problem with going back. They're like, yeah, we're going to do this. Yeah.
And like I said, the thing of it is, especially with, we've spoken with a number of people on the show who went there at 15, 16, 17, literal babies. Y'all are nowhere near adults. Y'all were kids, and you go from your mom's house where you're getting taken care of 24/7 to a prison system where technically you are getting taken care of 24/7. I say technically because it's not a luxury. They are required to do it, so they're going to do the base thing. So you get out at one gentleman was in his 50s when he got out from 16 in the 1960s and come out to he like, what do I do?
Oh yeah, you lost.
What do I do? And he described it as his entire life was basically on hold. It was just like somebody put pause on your life and then didn't turn it back on until 2015, 2016. So now you're out for this experience of time. We got to figure out how to use cell phones. We got to figure out how to drive, how to do X, Y, and Z, and not sort of. And that is a heavy pressure to put on any human being, because you have to have this crash course of being an adult like this. Because again, especially with parole, you have to be if you have to be shown as a productive member of society. And if you don't know how to do that, and they're not telling you how to do that, how are you supposed to do that and not end up going back?
Well, see, there's a program in Baton Rouge, and I'm about to start affiliating myself with them. It's called a parole project. And they actually will help you make parole, provide an apartment, provide training, provides job. They doing their thing, but you have to participate. See, and like you said, a guy that went to jail at 15, 16 and got out when he was 50, and I can imagine it's real difficult to get out and not get high, especially if you was doing it in there. And that's going to kill you right there. If you're drinking, you're drugging, you're spinning your wheels now. And people have this notion, and nobody talks about they got drugs in prison. They got alcohol in prison. They make moonshine. They get fruits and ferment them and be drunk. It goes on.
Now, of course, the only experience that many of, especially our students, and like I say, I can't speak for all of our students, many of our students and many people who are listening probably have this mindset of the most they have seen inside a cell is what they see on shows like Oz or Law and Order or Orange is the New Black or this or that or prison movies. And for a certain aspect, and I'm a fan of Orange is the New Black. It's a really good show, but that is fantasy. You can only essentially go so far with trying to do that. And I'm a writer myself. It is what it is. But like I said, I already know what I write is fictional. It's not real. So I think a lot of people know, okay, they know the whole prison wine thing. I get it. They know that there essentially is narcotics in prison that is smuggled in, but they don't see the real effects on real people. Because at the end of the day, these are real people. These are people whose lives have been on hold. These are people who are dealing with obviously mental issues and physical ailments. And like I said, from what I'm understanding, they do just about enough to keep you alive.
Exactly. That's another area that you just, we didn't talk about, the medical part of the deal. You got so many people with ailments, high blood pressure, diabetes, cirrhosis of the liver, cancer. The same stuff that goes on out here is in there. The treatment, however, is a whole different story. They provide the bare minimum. If you're not strong enough to get through, diabetes was matter of fact, the first time I ever saw a diabetic episode was in prison. I've never seen it on the street. And I mean the sieges and the jerking and all that, and then trying to get them to taking some sugar to calm them down, stuff like that. I never saw that until I went to prison. And that goes on regularly. Regularly. Dudes don't take, they make you go to pill call to take your medicine. You either do that or go to the block. Some cats put the pill in their mouth and then spit it out when they get out of line, knowing you need to take this. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they make you open your mouth, lift your tongue to make sure you swallowed it. They started doing that. Mm-hmm. But a lot of dudes have conditions that go untreated. And I've seen quite a few people die. And
unfortunately, type 2 and type 1 all diabetes is a life-threatening medical issue that needs consistent monitoring. And even though I'm guessing, I can probably level bet there's not a lot of incarcerated who are walking around with blood testers. They're not, see?
No, that's non-existent.
Yeah. No. So they don't know whether their sugar level is high or low. They have no clue. All they know is that I take a pill. And in some cases, they obviously don't take one.
They find out when they go into an episode. Now my sugar done dropped. That's how they know.
And that's, as somebody who has seen it, that's frightening. Mm-hmm. And for you to see that again, that affects your mental health. I couldn't imagine, because like I said, I've seen episodes before. It's a very disturbing thing to watch, especially if it's a person that you are acquainted with or you care about. I do have one more question because I know we've been going on long. Mm-hmm. Can you speak a little bit to interpersonal relationships when it comes to incarcerated? When I mean, do you have friends? Do you have people who are dealing with, who are mentors? Do you have a person that you would go to? Because, like I said, I'm asking if there's a community.
Yeah. You have like attract likes, right? Mm-hmm. So you have cats that observe. That's one of the traits you pick up in prison. You become an expert observer. You can read people. You look at their body language, the tone of their voice and stuff like that. So you got cats that's on a positive kick, and you gravitate toward them. They'll come to you. Mm-hmm. Study groups, research groups, stuff like that. Then now you got the other side of the deal too. You got the chaotic cats. That's a whole nother community. Oh, wow. They cut up. That's it. The homosexual community. Mm-hmm. They got they thing. And that's one of the things that I'm just speaking on it real quick. Right before I got out, Obama did the LBG thing. It was all cool, gay and stuff like that. But when it came to prison, oh no, that's still punishment. Oh yeah, but on the street, two dudes can get married, two women can get married, they can kiss. And when cats come to visit and go to kissing each other, oh, you're getting locked up. As soon as you leave, you're getting locked up because you're not supposed to do that.
Are you not supposed to have any sort of physical contact with each other?
Not two men or two women. You could, if your girlfriend come, you could kiss her. Cats gonna always push the envelope. They're gonna try to do stuff. They get caught. But if it's a gay thing going on, oh no. And I used to question. I said, well, wait a minute. It's legal out there, so why it's not legal in here? And it'll be like, no, we're not tolerating that. But yeah, you got all kind of communities. You got the Christian communities, you got your Islamic communities, and I've seen battles between them on doctrine, and you got different gang affiliations. Mm-hmm. I was in Winfield, and it was only 3 of us from New Orleans and 2 from Baton Rouge. Everybody else was from up there, Ruston, Alexandria. So you can imagine we had to actually click up and protect each other because we in there with Crips, Bloods, Roaring 20s. They got all kind of gang members in there. So, yeah, you got communities everywhere. You got the snitch community, those that tell, confidential informers. They know who each other are, stuff like that. So, yeah, the communities varied. You had a multitude of communities in prison.
And like I said, we're human beings. We are literally social animals.
Exactly.
You have to gravitate to at least somebody, which, like I said, it sticks in the back of my mind why somebody, I no clue why somebody would be in solitary with no other human contact for such a long time. That is a problem, especially we as humans are not built like that. Mm-hmm. Like I said, if we were wolves, maybe. But we are social beings. Mm-hmm. So of course that's going to cause problems moving down the line. Sir, first of all, thank you so much for joining us on the show and sharing your experiences, because I think it's really important for many people to hear those experiences. Because, as I said prior, for a lot of people, the only experience they have is like media, mm-hmm. films, television that are set in prisons. Mm-hmm. I know for me, growing up, the first thing I saw was probably Oz, mm-hmm. that show. And we all know that that's not what it is. Right. You know what I mean? So thank you. Where can they find more of your work, and where can they essentially connect with you if they'd like?
I got a business card. I have 2 LLCs that I run.
Oh,
but that's my card.
There, and we can, find him at Consolidated Multi Ventures. And if you can find him at his website, that is cmvllc@gmail.com. That's again cmvllc@gmail.com. And if you're looking for us, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram. Nope, we're not on Twitter. We're not on Twitter or X or whatever it's called right now. We are on Instagram because I'm looking directly at it. We're on Instagram. That's CRJ_DU. You can actually find us on Facebook as well. That's CRJXDU. Once again, that's CRJXDU. And you can follow our YouTube page, where a lot of the information and a lot of the seminars that we have is actually on our YouTube page. So that is CRJ_DU. So if you're looking at us, for seminars, if we're looking at us for talks and panels, a lot of those we record, a lot of those I record. I'm the one usually behind the camera. A lot of us record those so you can actually see it from wherever you are in the world. So to our folks who listen to us all over the United States, all over North America, all over the world, you can see a lot of our panels and a lot of the things that we work with and the people that we work with on our YouTube page. We have a lot of stuff out there, including this podcast, because that's also a thing. Our podcast is available on YouTube as well. So you're most likely hearing this on YouTube, which is fine. We appreciate you listening. But if you actually want to find us, you can catch our email. That is crj@dillard.edu. Once again, that is crj@dillard.edu. But we have got to go. Thank you again for being a part of our show. I really, really like the sort of eye-opening look that you gave us, and I truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Until next time, I am Lawrence Webb, the project assistant, and we always keep, we always keep a an empty seat for Miss Tia Suggs because she's out doing a lot of wonderful things for the center, and we truly appreciate it. But until next time, we will see you later.